Greetings, dear listeners, Amelia here, bringing you a tale from the heart of Christmas traditions. Indeed, Christmas is a time of joy, laughter, and most importantly, food. As we all know, no festive table is complete without the centerpiece, the Christmas casserole. It's a dish that warms our hearts and fills our bellies, a dish that brings family together around the table, wearing bright sweaters and radiant smiles. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate this culinary wonder, shall we? The Christmas casserole is not just a dish, it's a tradition, a symbol of home and family. It's the hearty aroma that fills the house on Christmas morning, the delicious anticipation that builds as it bakes to perfection, and the moment when the oven door opens, revealing the bubbling golden casserole, is nothing short of magical. Now, there are as many casserole recipes as there are stars in the sky. Each family has its own, passed down from generation to generation, each with its unique twist. But today, we're going to talk about a very special casserole recipe. This one comes straight from the North Pole, from the kitchen of none other than Mrs. Claus herself. It's her famous Pesto Paprika and sour cream Christmas fruitcake casserole. Just the name itself makes your mouth water, doesn't it? The ingredients of this casserole paint a picture of a festive feast. Mixed dried fruits that bring a touch of sweetness, sour cream for a tangy twist, pesto sauce for that Italian flair, and paprika for a hint of spice. Not to mention a dash of dried oregano and basil, a sprinkle of walnuts, and the base of flour and olive oil. This casserole is truly a symphony of flavors that sings the song of Christmas. So let us delve into the recipe and see how this magical casserole comes to life. Stay tuned, for this is a culinary journey you don't want to miss. But remember, the secret ingredient is always a sprinkle of love and a dash of Christmas spirit. Now let me entertain you with an intriguing tale of a peculiar incident that unfolded during the festive season of Christmas. This is an extraordinary story about a delightful old woman named Ms Bell Pum. Recognized in her charming little town for her near-passionate love of cheese, she was an enchanting sight during the holiday season, bustling about in her kitchen. One particular Christmas, inspired by the spirit of giving and love that defines the holiday, she resolved to share her passion for cheese with her eagerly awaiting guests by creating an intricate cheese platter as her dessert offering. However, in her unchecked enthusiasm, she made a blunder that she would have never in her wildest dreams. Instead of carefully selecting a ripe, fragrant cheese from her extensive collection in her pantry, a pantry that was a haven for any cheese enthusiast, she mistakenly chose a piece of cheese that was, to phrase it gently, well past its prime. This cheese had been long neglected, left unceremoniously in an obsolete corner of her pantry. Over time, it had fostered a thriving colony of tiny ticks who had found a hospitable environment in its softness. Completely oblivious of the grave error she had made, she generously presented the cheese to her unsuspecting guests. Among her guests was a certain Mr. Higglesworth, an ardent cheese lover and connoisseur, who was always eager to try different cheese varieties. Unfazed by the unusual look of the cheese, he courageously tasted it. The subsequent results of his daring taste test were, to understate it, quite shocking. Out of Mr. Higglesworth's bum came green runny poo into the casserole. It was pure liquid. One man's real slimy eye fell into his mouth and he ended up vomiting out the window onto Santa Claus's beard. Now the story takes us to another interesting character. Let me introduce you to Ms Bell Pum's sister, Hauve, who is as round and sweet as the candy floss she's made of. Hauve is a mother of three, each as unique as the other. There's Pole, the male polar bear, showcasing strength and warmth like his Arctic counterparts. Then there's Nuddles, the female golden bear with a glittering fur that matches her golden heart. Last but not least, there's Zoe, who is also made of candy floss, mirroring her mother's sweet disposition. Zoe is round and sports short yellow hair in pigtails, making her a unique delight. So, dear listeners, this tale is an unusual cautionary reminder that every cook, professional or novice, should bear in mind. The quality of ingredients is vital in cooking, and no amount of thrill or haste should allow us to neglect that. And that, dear listeners, is a story to remember. Now, let's proceed to our recipe, a delightful mix of tastes prepared with fresh, high-quality ingredients that promise a feast without any unpleasant surprises. Today's recipe is a delightful blend of flavors, textures, and Christmas joy. Imagine a Christmas fruitcake casserole with a twist, a creation of Mrs. Claus herself. The ingredients are simple, yet they come together to create something spectacular. Picture this: a cup of mixed dried fruits, apricots, raisins, cranberries, all the flavors of the season. A cup of sour cream, half a cup of pesto sauce, 2 cups of flour, and half a cup of olive oil come together to form the backbone of our casserole. To this, we add a teaspoon each of paprika, baking powder, dried oregano, and dried basil, sprinkled with just a hint of salt. And for a delightful crunch, a 1/4 cup of chopped walnuts. Now that's a list of ingredients that promises a festive treat. With these ingredients ready, we shall now venture into the art of casserole making. Let's embark on this culinary journey. Preheat your oven, and let's get our mixing bowls ready. The heart of the kitchen, the oven, needs to be fired up to a cozy 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius for those using the metric system. And while our oven is getting all warm and toasty, let's show some love to our baking dish. A 9 by 9 inch dish will do the trick. Give it a nice generous greasing. This will ensure our casserole doesn't cling to the dish like a toddler to a lollipop. Now let's take a mixing bowl and introduce it to our dry ingredients. We're talking flour, baking powder, salt, paprika, dried oregano, and dried basil. Give them a good mix, ensuring they all blend together like a harmonious choir singing a Christmas carol. While our dry choir is singing, let's whisk up a storm in another bowl. Here's where the olive oil, sour cream, and pesto sauce come into play. Whisk them together until they're smooth and well acquainted, like old friends catching up at a holiday party. Now comes the magic. Gradually add our wet mixture to the dry ingredients. Stir gently, as if you're coaxing a sleeping cat not to wake up. Remember, we don't want to overmix. We're making a cake, not building a brick wall. Overmixing may result in a dense cake, and we're aiming for a light and fluffy texture, like the first snowfall of the season. With our batter ready, we are halfway through our recipe. The aroma must be filling your kitchen by now. Now, let's proceed to the next steps, where our casserole begins to take shape. You're going to introduce the dried fruits and walnuts, if you fancy a bit of crunch, into this festive symphony. Fold them gently into the batter, ensuring they're evenly distributed. Remember, we're not conducting a vigorous orchestra here, so no need for excessive stirring. Once your fruits and optional nuts have made their debut, it's time for the grand entrance. Pour the batter into your prepared baking dish, spreading it evenly with the grace of a ballerina using a spatula. You want to make sure every inch of that dish is covered, like a warm blanket on a snowy Christmas night. Now here comes the crescendo. Place the dish in your preheated oven and let it bake for a good 30 to 35 minutes. No peeking, let the oven do its magic. You'll know it's ready when a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean, like a wand after a successful magic trick. Once baked, resist the urge to dive right in. Let the casserole cool slightly before you begin slicing it into squares. Be patient, my dear. Good things come to those who wait. And voila, your pesto, paprika, and sour cream Christmas fruitcake casserole is ready to be served. This festive casserole can be enjoyed warm or at room temperature, whichever tickles your fancy. So, whether you're serving it at a holiday gathering or enjoying a slice in the comfort of your own home, this casserole is sure to spread the Christmas cheer. Remember, the magic of Christmas isn't just in the gifts under the tree, it's also in the food we share, the laughter we exchange, and the memories we create. And who knows, maybe this casserole will become a new tradition in your home. So here's to new traditions, delicious food, and a Merry Christmas to all. Let's wrap up our tale with another unforeseen episode featuring our dear Ms Bell Pum. This one occurred during a moment of gaiety and hilarity, the majestic Christmas Eve ball, hosted at the sumptuous Boodle-Whoop Manor. Known for its splendour, the manor was the residence of Ms Bell Pum's beloved sister, Agnes Boodle-Whoop, the esteemed hostess. Agnes, a staunch devotee of tradition, was adamant about presenting the Christmassy jelly, the epitome of the season's spirit, as the centerpiece on the dessert table. The Christmassy jelly was not just a dessert, it was a symbol of their family heritage, a recipe passed down through innumerable generations, an eagerly anticipated treat for all members of the family. As nightfall arrived, the manor was filled with jovial sounds of laughter, the resonating melody of music, and the frequent toasting of champagne glasses. The Christmassy jelly, gleaming under the chandelier's glow, took its place of honor on the dessert table, awaiting its moment of triumph. However, the evening had a surprising turn of events waiting. Ms Bell Pum, swept away by her excitement, mistook a random bag clothes meant for a friend as her own, and ended up donning them to the grand ball. In her hurried attempt to rectify the mistake, she mistakenly used cat urine instead of lime flavour in the Christmassy jelly, and then some dog droplets ended up in the fruitcake. When it came time for the guests to savour the desserts, the reactions were more dramatic than anticipated. One guest lost his stomach out the window, another vomited into his wife's mouth, and a young lady couldn't hold her diarrhea and ended up relieving herself in a plant pot in the middle of the road. But the worst was yet to come. One lady, unable to control her disgust, vomited into a boiling pot which overflowed and filled the hall. The intense smell caused everyone to start vomiting, and tragically 6 people drowned in the ensuing chaos. In the midst of the pandemonium, Ms Bell Pum, always one to take things in stride, found the situation amusing and laughed along. She quickly composed herself and apologized to her sister, who, despite the initial shock, also found humor in the situation and joined in the laughter. The mishap turned the ball into a memorable event, filled with laughter and bewilderment. From this hilarious incident, Ms Bell Pum learned to appreciate the practicality of sturdy desserts, like our Christmas casserole, at festive events. This mishap became a lesson she cherished, a lesson that underscored the importance of practicality, even in festivities. It's a lesson we should keep in mind when planning our festive menus. Now, back to our recipe. Let's take a moment to recap the steps we've taken on this delightful culinary journey. We began by preheating our oven and preparing our baking dish. Then, we whisked together our dry ingredients: flour, baking powder, salt, paprika, dried oregano, and dried basil. In a separate bowl, we combined the olive oil, sour cream, and pesto sauce until smooth. Gradually, we added this wet mixture to our dry ingredients, stirring gently until just combined. We then folded in our mixed dried fruits and optional walnuts. The batter was poured into the baking dish and baked until golden and delicious. Remember, the secret to a perfect casserole is not to overmix the batter and to evenly distribute the fruits and nuts. Enjoy your Christmas celebrations with this special casserole, and remember, the joy of Christmas lies in the love we share through our food. Until next time, cheerio!